We have a 2013 Audi A4, 2.0 liter front-wheel drive. As you see, it was in a bit of a fender bender. The steering rack got damaged in the accident, so we're going to show you how to replace the steering rack. Here's the rack. This is a used rack we got. The new one is about $2,000. Used one you could probably find for around $6,000. This is the rack. It has the motor in it. All the sensors, everything is in one unit, along with the control module. We'll start by removing front leaf. Tie rods over here. It's a multi-point 21mm nuts. See, this is how it looks like. It goes right in here. Be very careful when you do that. There's an ABS sensor, and when you put in the socket on, you could damage the sensor, so watch out for the sensor. Don't lose these little washers. They go into the nuts. It's nice to have them. You could put a nut back on the tie rod, like halfway, so it's flush with the bolt of a tie rod, and hammer it out. You do that so you don't damage the thread on the bolt. Once the tie rod is almost out, you could tap on it little by little. See this sleeve over here? This is part of the spindle. So we're gonna need to remove that sleeve before we put the other rack in, because if you don't put the sleeve in, your tie rod is gonna be loose. You'll not be able to tighten it, and you will damage the boot on it. This dust shield over here, this little boot, you will damage it if you're not gonna put this sleeve in. So make sure you do have the sleeves in place when you install the new rack. See, this one came out without the sleeve. It's good. Don't lose the washers. They stay with the nut. Now we could bring the car up, take the rack out. Before you lift the car up, make sure your steering wheel is straight. Do not turn the steering wheel when the rack and pinion is not in place, because you will damage the clock spring, and that will be costly. So make sure your steering wheel is straight and never turn while the rack is not in the car. Now we're gonna need to remove this support over here. We're gonna need to take the sway bar nuts off and lower the sway bar and take the rack out. When you do that, first unclip the wires from the support. There's two clips holding the wires up. Just pull them out. There's 4 18mm bolts and 2 M10 triple square bolts. No, that's actually M14, I'm sorry. Now watch out for these little nuts. They go into the 18mm bolts. They're not secured in the subframe, so don't lose them. That's more than enough. Now you have a one bolt that holds on to the swivel coming from the steering wheel. Take that bolt out. It's an M10 triple square. Make sure your steering wheel is straight right now, and the wheels were semi-straight. And make sure when you put the new rack back in, you put her in the same, so you don't have any damage to your clock spring. Just pull this thing off. And leave it hanging there. Now we're gonna need to disconnect these two connections. The third one could stay. It's from the steering rack itself, so it's gonna be with the steering rack. Now you gotta pull on this little red tab, press on the connector like you're trying to close it, and press on the black tab. Wiggle it off. Same thing over here. Pull the tab out, press on the connector, press on the brown tab. Now our rack is ready to come out. You got two bolts holding the rack up. Take those bolts out and the rack is out. Now these are 19mm bolts. Take them out. They have the same type of washer nuts in the back, so don't lose those nuts as well. Watch out, don't take the bolts out all the way. Make sure you're holding the steering rack because it might fall down. Yep, just like it did right now. Hold the rack up because nothing's holding it right now, so it could fall down on the ground. Just wiggle it little by little, and that's it. You got your rack on the floor. So yeah, we got the motor, we got the control module over here, and a whole bunch of sensors. That's actually what went wrong. The motor position sensors got messed up, maybe from a shock or something like that. So we're replacing the rack. One tip, there's 3 bolts over here holding this end cap. Make sure you never take them off and try to turn the wheel. Never. There's a whole lot of sensors in here. They will get damaged. So don't take these bolts out. So now we need to take the sleeve off. We don't want to damage the boot. We might need to use the tie rod somewhere else. So we're going to take the chisel, put it against the wood, and take the sleeve off. We're gonna need to put her back into the spindle first. So it goes in nice and easy. If it doesn't go in nice and easy, just hammer it in, make sure it's in all the way, and now we could put the steering rack in. Okay, now get your bolts ready and put the rack in. It goes in nice and tight. Alright, bolts are in. Put the tie rod nuts on. Make sure you don't cross thread it. Use those little square washer nuts in the back of the bolts. Tighten the rack up. Now you can put the sway bar back on. This bushing span a little bit. Make sure the cut on the bushing is sideways. Otherwise the bushing might get crushed and the sway bars are gonna start knocking. Alright, now connect the electrical connectors, the rack, lock the little red tabs in place. And you could tighten the tie rods. Use a little jack stand to put pressure on the tie rod so it doesn't spin in the spindle. And tighten the nut. See if this one's gonna go. This one's gonna need to do the same thing. Alright. Now we'll loosen the bolts on the sway bar links so the sway bar moves around easily. Tighten those as well. Now straighten the wheels out. And put the steering shaft back on. Once again, make sure you did not spin the steering wheel while the steering rack was off. If you did that, you have 99% chance that your clock spring is no good anymore. Now, put that support back on. Make sure you align those square nuts in the subframe properly with the bolt. See, this one's not aligned. Not a lot. Clip the wiring back into place. You don't want these wires to be hanging around. And that's it. Put the wheels on. Now, the last step of this whole procedure is start the car up and relearn the end stops. You have to turn the wheel has to be straight, turn it all the way to one side, hold it in that position for several seconds, turn it all the way to the other side, hold it in that position for a couple of seconds. You will hear a beep and straighten it out, and you're all set.